What's going on all you gamers, here we are back with some more Outriders, and today I'm going to be giving you a few hints and tips on how you can kind of survive a bit better and some of the really good defensive mods that you can put in place of emergency stance since it's been fixed. So if you've been falling over a lot in Outriders and you want to know if there's a way to fix that, then stay tuned, that's coming up next. Welcome back all you guys and girls, as always, Full Things Gaming, Full Things Xbox, and of course a lot more Outriders along the way. Then why not hit that subscribe and bell icon? I'll be bringing you lots of hints, tips, guides and a lot of fun gameplay. But for now you're here to find out if there's a way that you can actually keep your character from kind of falling over all the time. Because since they've, I was going to say nerf, but it's not a nerf, since they have fixed the emergency stance, basically everyone is kind of struggling a little bit more. Obviously that was very bugged out and it was giving you 65% mitigation at pretty much all times. It was as though you were a Devastator in his golem armor and you were just so buffed. But gone are those days, it's fixed and now we need a little workaround. Now, just so you know, there is no single mod that is anywhere near as good as that. So if someone tells you there is, I'd say they've either found something out that I haven't, or they're probably just making it up. At the moment, you have to kind of know your build, you have to work around it, and you have to work around what you've got. Right, so before I go any further with the mods and such, I'm going to show you something that can really help you. And that is literally on your page here where you're geared up. Just on the Xbox, it is pressing right trigger, but whatever it is down the bottom left, do that. So with PC, it may be very different. Basically, click that and it is going to give you your overall stats. Now this is very helpful. If you're falling over all the time, this can kind of make you work out what's wrong. So for example, the main thing you're going to be looking at is just down here. The top bit is pretty much your offensive stuff, just down the bottom here is the main bit. So if you have a little look, this tells me my physical damage reduction, which at the moment is 50%. If I went up to top right and looked at my armour, it would say the same. The resistance is 20%. Just down here, health regeneration, healing received, weapon life leech and skill life leech. Now I'm telling you now, if you have absolutely zero on all of these, you are probably going to struggle. If you've got really low resistance, you are probably going to struggle. Guess what? If you have really low armour, you are probably going to struggle. The emergency stance mod really did kick in all the time and it really made it so you didn't know what your character should be going for, because you didn't need to worry about defense because most of the time that was taking care of everything. Now one other thing that you can do, obviously if you got to here, and I probably don't have a weapon with it on, just here, so weapon life leech. If you are struggling to stay alive, you don't have much regen in your build, weapon life leech can really help. If you're shooting a gun, basically you'll be getting health back at all times as long as you're shooting an enemy. It can really help. You may want to put something like this on, and an imploder is not a bad choice for just an all-around generic nice gun to use for damage and for getting a little bit of heals. Now you probably already know this, but if you don't, if you have one piece of gear that is really dragging you down, and a lot of times when you're making a new character, so say for example just here, it's usually the pistol, because you don't really need to gear that up as much. Now overall, if you'll have a look, all of the stuff I've got on is level 50. If this one right here was still a level 10 gun or a level 12, 20, 30, whatever it is, it brings down your stats. In main, I think it affects the health just over here, but it does affect a few other things. So if you're making a secondary character, or if you're just making a new character, or even on your character, check that all of the gear is as high as possible, as one piece may be dragging you down a little bit. Right, so if we bop over to Zahidi and we have a little look at our mods, I'll go through some of the ones that I find are best in slot currently. Right, so I'm going to start with one that I think is one of the best ones in slot at the moment, and that is this one just here, Rejuvenation. Receive 14,158 firepower, 7,005 anomaly power and 40,956 armor bonus for 8 seconds whenever your health is replenished, and that's on a 10-second cooldown. You will almost definitely have a way to replenish your health. If you haven't, you're probably going to fall over anyway. Putting this mod on means you get a nice bit of hybrid. It means you get a little bit more firepower, a little bit of anomaly power, and that all important armor. And I'm telling you now, from what I have seen, armor is pretty much key in this now. I've tried a few different things, but when you boost your armor, the mitigation seems to help more than anything else. So if you can try to get your armor a bit higher, that is definitely the way forward. And this mod is honestly amazing because it gives you a lot of extra damage and it gives you a lot of survivability all in one nice mod. Next up, and this one is a pyro one only, but if you have a little look, killing an enemy marked by a pyromancer with a weapon increases your armor by 22,616 and resistance by 10% for 15 seconds, and it stacks up to 3 times. Now I'll tell you why that's good. One is because the actual duration is really long, 15 seconds, that's a nice chunk of change, it means that it'll be up most times. Secondly, it does your resistance and your armor. Thirdly, even though I said it is only pyromancer, if you have a little look, killing enemies marked by pyromancer, meaning that even if you're playing with a pyromancer, so if you have a friend that's pyro, if you've got someone in who's marking with overheat, this can really help out a whole team. It really can, it's absolutely amazing, but honestly, it's dependent on if you've got a pyro. So if you don't have a pyro, not the best one. If you have, this is one of the better ones that you can put on. Next up, and I am going to say this is one of my straight up favourites as well, and this is Damage Absorber. Increase your armour by 52,659 and resistance by 10%. Now that doesn't sound that amazing, but it's just a guaranteed buff to your mitigation. If you have a look, a lot of the other ones are on kill. That's all well and good, but meaning if you're going to get shot in the eye by a sniper, or if you're going to get jumped on straight away by an alpha, they're not going to help you in the slightest. Things like this are just guaranteed, and it may mean that you'll be able to take that initial hit and proc something else, or give yourself a little bit of time to get a bit of healing back another way. Next up, and I would say probably only for firepower builds. If you're using Anomaly, this one won't help you much at all. Actually, yeah, if you're using Anomaly, just stay clear of this. If you have got a really nice firepower build and you are finding that you are massacring enemies left, right and centre, this one is really nice. Killing enemies while aiming down sights grants 45,638 points of armour for 10 seconds and stacks up to 3 times, which is roughly 135,000, I think, if my maths is right. Yeah, give or take, a little bit over that. But yeah, that is absolutely amazing for firepower builds. It really is good. Just make sure you're holding on to that trigger and make sure you're aiming down the sights all the time. And that way you'll have that buff and you'll have it for 10 seconds. Really, really good. It means you're going to mitigate an absolute abundance of damage. Now next up, and again, sorry it is for the Pyromancer, but they are the class I know the most about, and this one is definitely worth a try, as I think it may well be the new hidden gem, the new emergency stance for the Pyro. This one right here will keep you alive and net you an abundance of damage and make you clear content faster, and that's Dying Fire Breath. Whenever your health drops below 30% burn, is inflicted on enemies within a 10 meter radius with a 5-second cooldown. In the right builds, this one can, I promise you, make you nigh on impossible to kill. You can still die if you're unlucky. At the moment there seems to be some weird situations that I can't fathom in Outriders, but this for me I think may well be the new emergency stance for Pyro, and it's even better because it makes you clear content faster. You will do an abundance of damage with your burn, you will get an abundance of health back, and if you've got a bit of mitigation somewhere else with a bit of armour or something, you will definitely want this on, especially if you're running that Firestorm tree for a lot of the health back and a lot of the extra health, and the fact that you'll have extra burn damage and duration. Honestly, one of the best, if not the best in slot for Pyro at the moment. Next up, and a very similar one, but obviously not quite as good because you don't get the health regen, but it is a bit of an uh-oh moment, and it means that you're going to have about 3 seconds to basically make your way to get away, or get some damage back, or get some health, or get some kills, and that is Ice Trap. Whenever your health drops below 30%, freeze is inflicted on enemies within a 10 meter radius. The only time this isn't good is, like I said, if you're getting sniped by a sniper and shot in the eye, it is not really going to help you much. But in those situations when you're getting absolutely mobbed and you're in a bit of pressure, this is really good and can be a great go-to mod, and obviously it activates every 5 seconds. Now honestly, it doesn't sound that amazing, but enemies within 10 meters is actually pretty massive, and it's on a 5-second duration cooldown. Give it a try, I think you'll find out this is another little hidden gem, and gives you about 3 seconds, like I said, to have a little bit more survivability, or kind of regain your composure. Now next up is this one just here. I don't know why. I thought this one was going to be amazing. It turned out to be okay. I'm not sure if it's bugged, not going to lie, but if it's not, this one may worth be putting in your build. Life of the party. Incoming damage is reduced by 3% for each enemy in close range and stacks up to 8 times. I must admit it wasn't as good as I thought. I would pick quite a few of the other options before this, but you may be able to work it into a build, and if it does net you all of that, it's quite a nice chunk of change to reduce damage. But for myself, I found that more armour worked a lot better than this in most cases. Now next up, what I'm going to do is tell you a few mods to actually stay clear of. Now I did this the day after the patch, so if they've changed anything you may well be able to put them in, and I may be slightly wrong about this now, but for myself these did absolutely nothing. I don't know if they're bugged out, but they're just not very good. First off is this one. I would never pick this over anything else. It's too situational, there's no real point to it. Try and pick it up in your skill tree instead, or like I said on that armour with the 10%, that should be enough. This one right here just seems like a little bit of a waste to me. It doesn't really do much. It's just for those kind of error effects, say like the Brood Mother. Boosts your resistance 15% every time you use a skill, stacks up to 3 times and deteriorates every 7 seconds. It's not bad. I wouldn't choose this over a lot of the other options. I think being able to mitigate that physical damage is a lot better. And to be perfectly honest, this one didn't seem that great in most builds I had. So I would probably stay clear of this one. Another one, this one seems like a wasted slot. Reduce the duration of negative statuses by 75%. Honestly, unless you're dying to tick damage 100% of the time, don't bother with these in your build. There's ways around it that's much better. Healing on firepower, healing on skill leech, putting something in your skill tree. There's quite a lot of other things you can do to negate that. Don't worry about something like this, just make sure you've got more mitigation. Again, this one I don't know if it's bugged out. I didn't find this one very good either. Not impressed. Damage taken from elite is reduced by 25%. That should have been one of the best ones you could put on. For myself, I don't know if it's bugged out. I don't know if it was bugged out the day after, but it wasn't doing much. There's quite a lot of other mods that I would put in place. I wouldn't put this one on either. If it works for you, let me know in the comments. It may just be I was unfortunate at the time, but for myself, I didn't find this one doing much at all. I wouldn't chuck it in a build. And finally, this one right here. I tested this one out, and again it wasn't proccing on my game, so I don't know if it was just because I was trying the day after the patch. Let me know in the comments if you can please, because this right here should have been one of the best mods in the game. Doubles your armour whenever your health drops below 35%. Now if you put this into a really good build where you get a high armour value, this one right here will be absolutely game changing. If it works on your build, so test it out, run into something, let them knock you for 6 and then just have a little look at your stats. If this doubles your armour, that is well worth putting on and be one of the best mods in the game for defense. For me, I don't know why, it was not proccing in the slightest. I was falling over left, right and centre. It definitely wasn't doing what it was supposed to. Finally, I know we were talking about mods, but I just thought I'd give you a little hints and tips on this bit as well. In your skill chart, don't forget you have a lot of ways to mitigate damage and death. Obviously you've got your health pool, but honestly that's not the be all and end all. No matter how much health you've got, you can still die. I have not managed to make a build where you've got so much health that you can out-tank everything. It seems to be more about being able to have enough to mitigate damage along with your armour. One thing, make sure you pick up a little bit of, I would say this one just here, whenever you can. If you've got one of these in your skill tree and you can pick it up, 20% resistance seems to help an awful lot in those uh-oh moments when you've got an abundance of, say, alphas or brood queens, or anyone that's just doing kind of damage to you too much in the area effects or their skill moves. This seems to really help out your survivability. Honestly, at the moment as well, if you can, it is not essential, but if you can manage to pick one of these up, pick up a 20% extra armour or whatever extra armour you can. I wouldn't say go out of your way completely to pick them all up because that may mean your damage absolutely sinks through the floor, but if you can put one in your build, it can really help. Another thing, things such as this. For example, if you're going for a skills build and you've got a lot of anomaly, having a bit of skill leech is absolutely amazing, and it will just mean you've got to adapt it to your playstyle. So obviously if you're going for skill and anomaly, you're going to be making sure that you've got increased skill leech. If you're going for firepower, make sure you've got this on. Increase your weapon leech. Using that to your advantage and chucking a few of them in, or one of the big slots if you've got something that can give you that, just do it that way, and it will mean that you'll stay alive a lot easier than you generally would have, because if you've got no kind of regen, no kind of health, no kind of armor and no kind of resistance, then I am guessing that you are going to end up pretty much falling over 99% of the time, unless you are the best glass cannon build in the world and an absolute beast of a gamer. Right, well, you gamers, hopefully I've gave you a little bit of insight into a few things that might help you out. You may well have known all of them, you probably did, but for myself, I think that some of those mods are absolutely amazing there, and in a way I'm a little bit glad that they have got rid of the emergency stance, because it means I can branch out a bit and I've got that slot to play around with. But in another way, it meant I died a lot and I struggled for quite some time. But as always, guys and girls, I hope that's helped. Take care, I'll see you all next day.